Have you ever played Descenders and thought to yourself, I can do that? Now, while the scale of a game like Descenders is obviously way more extreme than real life, or at least in most cases, it really is cool that a game based on an outdoor activity could inspire you to then go outside and engage in said activity. Which is exactly what I did, although the reality of it was a little bit different than I had expected.
Am I recording? Yes. Okay, good.
So currently, and I'm sure over time I could get faster with this, but it takes me about 5 minutes to get my Norco Optic into the back of the BRZ. That's with the bars and controls facing up, and with the front wheel obviously removed. And it's not a terrible process, although obviously there are way better solutions out there. I know that, obviously, and obviously there's going to be a mount in the near future, probably to go on the roof or something. But in the meantime, because I couldn't wait and I wanted to have a way to get the bike to the trails, and currently the BRZ is basically the daily, this is the current situation. So you can do it, and you kind of have to be a little bit like tricky about how you get the bike into the back, especially if you leave the pedals on and you don't want to scratch anything or damage anything, but I've been very careful not to do that. And so now we're just going to go out to the trails, and I've obviously not changed the tires out yet. They're a couple of years old, and one of them has a few patches in it, but it seems to be holding air pretty well right now. I just need to, like I said, get a couple of new tires on the bike, especially the rear one, but I'm there. I might as well put a front tire and a rear tire on it, and I may stick with what's already on it, just a new version thereof, or I may change to something else. I'm not sure, but let's go ahead and go to the trails. Now, as you guys can see here, the basic idea of this is the fact that the bike is obviously in the BRZ on its side, the seats are folded down, and there's also a tarp down to prevent any damage to the interior of the car as well. I did also go in from the side here for a moment just to make sure that on the way out, the bike didn't end up bumping into anything that could cause any damage to either the car or the bike itself. But at the end of the day, you would actually be really surprised how easy it is to get the bike in and out of a BRZ or an 86 once you've done it a few times. Now, after coming up to that stop sign and riding for a very short distance on the road, I ended up dropping off into this first trail. Now, this is pretty much a entry trail, a connector trail, and also I want to go ahead and make a quick comment about the camera angle. So a little bit later on, I actually switched it over to a wider view. So if you're wondering why it's a little bit closed in or a little bit closed in feeling or looking, that's why. Now, the footage in the wider angle will start shortly, but for the very first part of this ride, I did not have my GoPro Hero 9 in the super view or the activity setting. So, lesson learned, I should have had it in the activity setting earlier, but that's just me. That's just what I was figuring out at the time. Because, honestly, with mountain biking in general, there's going to be a lot of things to figure out over time, so please do bear with me on that one, but it is something that I am growing into and learning, and as of actually recording the commentary on this video, the bike is actually about to go into the shop to get basically a full refresh and get a new set of tires put on it. Now, one thing that I will say I'm trying to work on as much as possible is I'm trying to take every possible opportunity to bunny hop the bike. And I know that it might be a little bit odd to see on video, and I might be bunny hopping the bike in odd places, but really at the end of the day, I'm just trying to get my own technique down, because later on, when I start moving up to bigger jumps, I really want to have a solid basis for where to start. Now, at this point, I actually repositioned the GoPro, changed the mode, put it in a much wider view, and you can see that helped the point of view tremendously. Absolutely tremendously. This was the view that I was thinking about in my head when I thought to myself, yeah, I want to take this thing out and make some videos with it. This was the view that I had in mind, not the view that I showed you at the beginning of the video, because I wanted to leave the part in at the beginning of the video, though, because I wanted you guys to see what that first view looked like, and then what it looked like when I changed it over to the wider view. view, the quote-unquote, like I said before, activity setting that is also stabilized internally. There's no gimbal on or anything like that. It's just the GoPro chest strap with the Hero 9 and running it in activity mode pretty much. Now, it's no surprise, though, that I discovered that one of my biggest weak points in this entire thing was climbing, and I kind of expected that to be one of my biggest weak points, but it really did open my eyes to it when I really, decided to get out on some trails and take the camera, and I was thinking to myself the whole time, I was like, God, I need to get better at climbing, and I feel like that's not really going to be a surprise to anybody, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it really opened my eyes up to how much you really need to work on your climbing if it's something that you want to be good at and have a lot of endurance with. Now, this was definitely not the steepest trail that I did, and unfortunately, I wasn't recording when I was doing the steeper trails, and I feel like if I was, it would have been just a lot of audio of me just breathing very heavily, and I feel like that would not be the most pleasant audio to listen to. Now, before this trail ended up coming to a junction, I did get a tiny bit of downhill, but it wasn't much. Took the opportunity to hop over that little log, but again, I'm trying to take every opportunity that I can to hop right now. As you can see, I'm even trying to hop on flat, which, it's a good skill to develop, but, at the end of the day, it looks kind of weird when you're just hopping around on flat parts of the trail. But then again, hopping the bike all over the place does make the ride a lot more fun, and to be honest, that's what I'm all about either way, so really, at the end of the day, who cares if it looks a little odd or not? Now, one of the biggest things that I realized when I turned right was, oh crap, it's really, really muddy. And I tried to stay out of the mud as much as I could, but there were some areas where it was just basically inevitable that I was going to go through some of it. And I did make sure to get the bike, cleaned up and washed off after I got back home. But I can still tell you that I'm not really the biggest fan of encountering a bunch more mud than I originally thought I was going to. Eventually, it got to the point where it was just muddy everywhere, and I was like, alright, either it's just gonna keep getting muddier, or eventually it's gonna start drying up. And fortunately, a little further on down the trail, it actually did start to dry up a little bit. Now, fortunately, I did have a small little downhill section, and it wasn't anything crazy by any means. It's like super simple stuff, but then again, it was also still really, really enjoyable, and this was also basically my first time out on this bike with some pretty old tires that were both either patched or starting to leak, so I wanted to go ahead and make sure I didn't get too far into the wilderness with these, because I didn't really want to walk the bike back. Now, granted, I do have, like you can see there, a little mini pump, which does help, but again, I didn't want to have to walk it back a good ways, just in case one of those tires ended up just flat out going. All in all, though, I'm just really, really excited to be able to journal my progress with this, because I love the fact that I literally started filming on my first time out, literally just my first time out on this bike, and I really wanted to keep that theme going of literally, if I feel like I'm having trouble with something, like a skill or a feature, I'm gonna film that. If I feel like I'm having a really good time on a trail, I'm gonna film that, and at the same time, if I feel like I'm having, a really difficult time on a trail, I also want to film that. So it really is about journaling that progression to me, because I feel like once you have a good amount of time and a good amount of progress made, you can go back and look through literally all of that footage, and not only look through it, but also learn from it and plan where you're going to go in the future, plan what you're going to work on next, plan what you're going to do with the bike. And honestly, I think that's the best part of recording all of these rides, and maybe not every single one, but recording as many of them as you can. Now, I know this is a very different style of video for me, but I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below, because as odd as it sounds that gaming and cars and off-road vehicles, which is kind of what my channel is based on, it's kind of interesting how there's more mountain bike crossover there than I originally thought there would be. So at the end of the day, like I said before, if you do ride mountain bikes, let me know in the comment section down below what bike you ride, what tires you like, what your favorite skills or features are to work on. If you like riding, gaps or jumps or rocks, or hey, if you prefer climbing climbing, which you might. I mean, there are some people that are absolutely just beastly climbers out there. So again, if you have really anything like that that you would like to talk about in the comment section down below, I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to get that conversation going. And with all of that being said, please do leave any of your thoughts and opinions down there. And that is going to do it for this video. And if you're new around here, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and turning those notifications on. Mountain biking is obviously not my main form of content. We mostly do a lot of off-road focused driving games. But again, hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you all in the next one.